very, very warm welcome to you on stage. We had a nice talk before, so we actually have a little connection. It's funny because our nanny, who's just staying at our house, was your nanny before, so we found some base here and common ground,
Germans
right?
are everywhere.
Yeah, Germans are everywhere. And in Hawaii, that's interesting. But you have a very interesting topic. And you're talking about startups, and you just have that book. I would just let you have the stage for a while, and then we'll go into some questions, okay?
Great.
All right?
Thank you. Let's see. It's going to come up here in a second. There we go. So we heard from some American friends, great innovators in their field, and we have to admit in Europe that we have a great heritage in Europe. We're good at a lot of things, but we have to admit the Americans beat us at entrepreneurship still. But get ready, we're going to get there. And it will take a while, but we will get there. So what our aim as the Christian think tank based in Norway, we wanted to one, be part of the solution at this youth unemployment that we heard earlier today. There's so much youth unemployment in Southern Europe and Eastern Europe, 25 to 50, 60%, and that's one of the key social problems. How do we deal with that? Well, we need to stir the spirit of entrepreneurship, the culture of entrepreneurship, and what we wanted to do was to have an overlook at what's already going on the ecosystems for entrepreneurship in Europe, and where are the hope for the future, the torches that show us the way forward. So we traveled through 6 cities in Europe and looked at the best practices from Berlin, Tallinn, London, Lisbon, Oslo, where I'm living, in Norway, and also Lisbon, Portugal, to find the best practices and then to meet some entrepreneurs. And then we were spreading the book for free to students all around Europe to inspire them to think of this. And then we're aiming at challenging politicians and city developers to improve the tax structures, the infrastructure for entrepreneurship to speed up this process so we beat the Americans sooner than later. So I'll take you through this. A little bit about my background. I started a few companies. I'm not going to bore you with all that. I was in a city council of Bergen, the second largest city of Norway, for the Christian Democrats for 4 years. I studied economics and history, so all that flows into starting a think tank, the first Christian think tank in Norway, and I think we have something to offer. So the idea is to multiply this in Europe in the years to come, to empower Christians to be part of solving society's problem on a wider scope than we're doing today. So just to give you a little critique about our own country, this is the Financial Times last fall. They came to see Oslo Innovation Week, which is our pride, where we show off all the entrepreneurship going on in Oslo. And then the editor says, Norway's oil wealth swamps innovation. So he wasn't too impressed. We have too much oil. 70% of our exports in Norway is oil-based. So we have to turn around and make some more baskets to fill. So that was just a little bit to hit on ourselves. We're good in Norway, but we're better at skiing than entrepreneurship. So we need to work at it. A fun thing as a Christian think tank, and I'd start off with this, is that we have a great heritage that I'd like to share with you. 200 years ago, there was this lay preacher. His life story is intriguing, but he basically was an entrepreneur. He hit the glass ceilings. He couldn't break through the very elitistic, hierarchical society in Norway 200 years ago. Came back to his dad's farm and was depressed. But then on his farm, he had this huge encounter with God as a 25-year-old. And it fired him up. He totally changed. He, first of all, realized he was loved by God, so he didn't have to fight to be good enough for God. The second issue was that he had a new vision to impact his nation. So he started traveling, preaching about getting people back to God, and a revival broke out. And for 3 years, this revival went on. He wrote books on the way. So in a population of 800,000, he sold 200,000 books, much more than I will do. You can help me by buying one copy at the end. But he was the first grassroots movement in Norway. But then after a while, he realized the people are poor. They're hungry from year to year. So he started businesses, and his group of friends started businesses all around the country. He started 30 businesses in 5 years himself. He was a business angel for 150, invested, he was advising, and this movement changed Norway. He was one of two people that the secular historians said changed Norway from poor to being one of the wealthier countries in Europe over 100 years in the 19th century. So this is our Christian heritage. We were pioneers. We were solving the problems. And today we inherited this, and Christians in Norway, and I would say in Europe, are good at caring for the poor, and we're good at running schools. But where are the entrepreneurs? So that's kind of my passion, to see more Christians partnering with us and starting businesses, connecting with what's going on in the secular world. So basically, we need to take more of our young people in our churches and send them off to hackathons and startup communities in Berlin and elsewhere to transform them into be entrepreneurs, and so that we take part in this revolution that's going on in Europe now. So you can read about that. There's an appendix in the book about Hauge and this case study. It's from Norway, but it could be anywhere. It's a great case study on how to change the nation. So we basically travel to Europe to check out what works and what doesn't. I'll go a little bit back and say that this crisis that we know is going on didn't start in 2008, but it started in the 70s already. So we had European coal and steel no longer competitive. The European economies were not able to transform and change. Key industrial cities shrunk. In Norway, we discovered oil, so we were the lucky ones. But Europe as a whole got stuck in the 70s. Today, we see the oil price dropping. Okay, it's stabilizing a little bit these days, but still, we're seeing the fourth industrial revolution hit us. It's going to totally change our world in 10, 15, 20 years to come. In this situation, none of the 15 largest IT companies in the world are European, so we're way behind. Europe is still unable to change fast enough. Some cities are shrinking. We're not making enough kids. You know all the problems. This is the worst examples. We throw rocks at the politicians and we vote for the neo-Nazis. This is not the solution. There are some cities that are doing it. They're rocking things up. Berlin, Tallinn, are two examples. So I'm just going to share very quickly with you 3 success criteria that we found in visiting these 6 cities. 1, there was a well-functioning ecosystem for entrepreneurs. There was like a family atmosphere where all the public and the private institutions were cheering each other up, sharing best practice. They were transferring their experiences to one another. And again, when we went around in these environments, where were the believers? We found a few, but very few. Where are they? Where is our youth? At Hillsong conferences in London or here? We need to bring them here, but send them off to Gründer parties in Berlin and Lisbon, and they're happening all over the place. Send your kids to entrepreneurial activities and empower them, please. Second criteria, there was a vision, and this is what we found in Germany among the politicians. There was a clear vision for entrepreneurship to be a third path a third career path. In Germany, the Minister of Commerce is saying you could be employed by the state, you can be employed by big companies, but you can also make your own startup. That's a thinking that we need to install in the future students. And that vision has to be strong, and we found that in Germany. Number 3, entrepreneurship runs through the whole economy, and we've got something to learn from the UK. Okay, so they left the EU, but they're still part of us in Europe. And they have had, for several years, had a tax incentives where you get up to 50% tax deductions if you invest in startups. This pulls money from real estate to startups, and it's a huge need. So we were actually been one of 4 or 5 major actors in Norway who's been able to lobby the government to introduce this in Norway the next year. And this is something we need to see in more. It's already happening in a few European countries. We need to do it in many more places to attract more capital. Also, we saw in the UK, 60-year-olds are taking a step to make their second career in their 60s. Europeans cannot retire age 57 anymore. They need to work a little harder and do something new when they're 60, when they have experience. Partnering with the young 20-year-old is smart. Just as an example, in our co-working space in Oslo, we have accountancy where key top leaders from top corporations have retired, but they're part of starting a new accounting company, and it's growing like crazy. So 60-year-olds have a great second opportunity to get involved with the energy of the young. Okay, towards the end, a few examples. We interviewed this guy in Berlin, Gleb Tritis, serial entrepreneur, age 31. He's now hired by Lufthansa to start Lufthansa's innovation hub to take the knowledge from the entrepreneurial scene and plug it into the old lady Lufthansa, which has been flying around for 70 years. Airplanes are new, but their services are getting old, so they need to transform their business, and they hired somebody who knew how to do it. So what is he saying as his tip for our future entrepreneurs? Build good teams, and build good teams. A good team can create something good from a bad idea, but a bad team can ruin even the best of ideas. That's applicable to everything you do. We need to build good teams. Frank Sinatra sang, "I did it my way." Trump is probably saying the same, but the future of entrepreneurship is not single individuals, it's teams. Okay, he also said, fail fast, dare to make mistakes, and that's something we really need to learn in Europe. It's possible to make mistakes and learn from them, and then move on. You can read the book to get more examples. I want to finish up with this girl. She's the princess of entrepreneurial activity in Norway right now. She had an idea August 2015 as she met a mother with a child who died, a teenager who died from cancer. She said the worst thing was not the treatment, which was hard, but it was her loneliness. She grew more and more lonely as she was out of touch with her family and friends, or friends. So she studied social interaction, or interaction design, the study of the interaction between humans and machines. And she said, this is the problem I want to solve. So she created this avatar robot. August 2015, she had the idea. She said, I will make the prototype in December 2015. She did. I will sell by August 2016. She did. And now she's, after just 6 months in business, she's moving to the Netherlands to start the first Dutch office. No Isolation is the company, and it's growing like crazy. She's an exciting example, and I want to see more believers like her. And I don't think she is a believer, but we need to see more believers being part of this community. And that's where I want to end up. Well, this is something we have to learn. We have to be better salespeople. At the bottom end, we need to learn to sell our products. And that goes for Christians in business as well. So I want to wrap up by saying, buy the book, get to know what's happening in Europe, give it to your nephew or your son or daughter. But we desperately need to plug more believers into the startup community in order to see that we as Christians who have faith in God are also part of the solutions, creating new jobs in Europe that we desperately need. That will be more money for our ministries at the end of the day, our traditional ministries, but it will also mean that we are part of solving the crucial question of the future of Europe that